Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel Tarot with Anne-Marie, and we are in for some more tarot this evening. One of the most difficult cards that I actually find personally, the Ten of Swords. Why? I don't think you can read a tarot card without actually feeling the effects of what's going on with that particular card. So yeah, it can be one of those where you actually feel it. All right, so my name's Anne-Marie and this is Tarot with Anne-Marie, and I have a strategic way of tarot. I devised a system that is centered around card pairings, and I use a very distinctive spread. Now, if you're eager to infuse your strategy into your tarot practice, you're in the right place. This is our Learn One Tarot Card at a Time series, and in this method today we're revealing the mysteries of the Ten of Swords. Right, and I've just realized the comments are not coming up, so just bear with me for 1 second. Let me put the link on so that you can join us, and then I can get that on the screen. I'm back in a moment. So, welcome back, and we have somebody asking, this is not the night to actually ask tarot a personal question. I suggest that you try and do that on Tarot Tuesday when we do a fusion of cards tonight. They are both tutorials, and they are both tutorials, and it's really not about me being able to give you a reading, but what we can do on Tuesdays is suggest a question that we will be using with the Ten of Swords, so you know the second card you're going to get, but the first card as in what that fusion is and how that makes up. So if you're wanting to find out how you can fuse powers, that's the way of doing it, but it's certainly not really a reading and not one I'd really recommend knowing you're going to get the Ten of Swords. So thank you for asking, but it is all about tarot tuition. All right, so thank you for joining us. Hello Passionate Saju, how are you doing? Just been saying that this card is one of those cards that can actually make you feel really not in the right space. Hi Av1M, how are you doing? I'm wondering if that's the same person from Facebook. Hi, good evening, thank you, welcome along. So, Ten of Swords. This tutorial, what is it all about? Well, the Ten of Swords depicts a man pierced by all of the 10 swords, and that signifies the conclusion of something that's been cherished, and misfortune has taken its control. Just like the king in the Death card. Now, if you go back to the Death card, there is a king that is in that picture, and he is lying in the mire just in the same way as our king was in that particular card. It's ruined his ego and his self-worth is shattered. Yet, unlike the king in the Death card, this man remains alive. Thank you for asking. I'm well. I'm sweltering, but I am well. I can't have the aircon on when I'm actually recording live because it interferes with the actual sound, and I don't want to do that. So it is sweltering, but I'm glad you're well too. Lovely. Okay, so let's find out more about this card. So the ego has been ruined. The nocturnal sky behind our figure symbolises a period of closure, a phase of going through a metamorphosis. And under the cover of night, where he would have not anticipated this, this man has been overwhelmed by the 10 swords that's plunged into his back. Oh, that's very nice of you. Thank you very much. Hi, Carla. Oh, all chatty tonight. How lovely. Thank you very much, everybody that's coming in. So, difficult card, as I say. So, these swords embody a circumstance that has unfolded. Now, remember your suit. Yep, there's nothing physical, despite the image that we are being shown. This is symbolic, and it's symbolic of what our person is thinking, or what communication has already happened, or how he is communicating himself. Okay, so our figure didn't foresee this situation at all. He even considered it was not possible, and yet the swords are in his back. Somebody crept up from behind. If we look, his light shirt, his tunic, shields his heart, demonstrating that he's fully grounded in his predicament and aware of its reality. He might not welcome it, but he'll be very receptive. So it's been imposed upon him. There's a brown hue on his tunic, signifying some pragmatic and genuine beliefs, good or bad. Here he is, resting. And that crimson robe is symbolic of his drive, his enthusiasm, his vitality, and it's been stripped away, ripped away from him by the assault of the 10 of swords on his back. And so now that is covering his lower body, as we can see. He's actually aware of everything that's vanished, all the aspirations he had. There's an inability now to navigate his way through his predicaments, remember, mentally. So any solutions elude him, and he feels like they've been torn away from him. The swords are impaling his body, and his robe leaves him feeling that every ounce of him has shattered his dreams. Draped over his legs, it conveys a yearning to depart this ill-fated place, to flee. Yet that's unattainable, as he's incapacitated right now and overwhelmed. Welcome from India. Brilliant. I'm really pleased to have you along, Av1M. This robe signifies a loss of standing, our status, our identity, and our authority. Perhaps humiliation, betrayal. It denotes the termination of a facet of our lives, something that our figure held dear. This has been coveted or snatched away, and everything held dear or that he cherished is being challenged, and it's come to a conclusion with a very painful, harsh truth. The swords are puncturing the length of his spine. Now that renders him paralyzed, and he can only await someone to assist. Resembling the death card, this is a lesson that must be internalized before we can move forwards. And he is lying in the harsh realities of life. So the swords are absent from the top of his head and the crown of his head. And so he'll be very aware of his plight. His mind won't question what's happened, because there are no delusions left. That's what the 10 of Swords means. And a sword is piercing his ear. Now, that's representing hearing those things that can cause ruin. One sword is piercing the base of his neck, his heart, and down his spine. And due to the swords in his ear and his neck, it's hindering any head movement. So he's compelled to look at that dawn of the new day and the apprehension that that might bring. He's probably in agony and perceives everything now with clarity. 10 is completion. And that leaves no space to deny his circumstances. A single sword can be lethal, can't it? But there's 10 here. And his reddish cloak could imply that he was arrogant and disregarded the warnings and was oblivious to things that he shouldn't have been. And yet his brown tunic introduces that grounded element as he's journeyed through daily life, and he might not envision such a fate befalling him. So his life has been crumbled on the mental and, of course, now the physical, as we see with our figure, the emotional and spiritual levels. So this imposed situation can't be mended right now. And he finds himself at rock bottom, just like when we go to the rock bottom of the wheel of fortune. Despite all the swords, soul blood depicted flows from beneath his torso. And that's where he's felt it the deepest. His heart's hemorrhaging and leaking that life force, signifying his life will be transforming, and he's powerless to control it, as this emotional anguish is unbearable. He can't combat the situation, that would be futile. And he's lying immobile, and he's experiencing that he is at a loss, grounded in the reality, and a sense that he's resigned to his predicament. However, his sleeve is grey, and this will enable him to contemplate action. So a fraction of energy, he might be able to initiate something to propel himself upwards and onwards, even if it's not now. And this is mirrored in his right hand, the sign that was seen before, held in that gesture that's used in Hindu and Buddhist. It's known as the prana mudra, which symbolizes life's energy. Sorry about my dogs barking outside. It's so hot. Just got to be outside. I'm so sorry. That time of day. Right. That gesture, called prana mudra, actually activates any energy that's obstructed within the body. So the swords, it's a bit like acupuncture, will start to flow again. And so this is hope. And he clutches them as he lies. He's surrendered, hasn't he? And in a silent plea, probably out of desperation and necessity, he has to persevere. And so the other ray of hope that we've got here is there's a new dawn. And however unwelcome it may be, he understands that he's completed this cycle and he's got to start anew. So there is a fresh opportunity and a chance to exist. 10 is completion. Completion of everything that has overwhelmed our figure in the 10 of Swords. But remember that this is talking about the thinking, the thought process, and maybe some harsh words from other people that has caused such a thing. Or that our thinking is, I don't know what to do. I'm completely at a loss. And the sunrise, as we can see in this card, illuminates those mountains that we see in the background. And that represents hardships that are present. And this man is compelled to confront the painful reality that those mountains bring. between him and the hills lies some water, but it looks very tranquil. So although he is defeated, the situation is saying there's nothing now to fight. He's got no emotional energy, and his mind has shed the reality and put light on his predicament. So this card is illustrating the extreme mental and emotional anguish caused by our response to certain events. It's a very harsh period. And it's when we realise that we've got minimal control and that life is vaster than our desire to be joyful or content and productive. The sun doesn't always shine, does it? And here we're being forced into perhaps undesirable paths because of situations that failed or terminated, or that we endured a lot of damage. The number 10 is about completion, but it's also about unifying and merging energies to forge a new whole. It's also about purpose. So although things might be at their worst at such an event and such a painful conclusion, and although we go, gosh, this is the disaster card, things can only get better because this has already happened. Just like when I said to you, Three of Swords, it's not prediction, it's where you find yourself now. This has happened, and this is how you're feeling about what's happened, and what you're thinking, and how you feel betrayed, overwhelmed, mentally exhausted. But you see, there is a new day, and it's emerging, isn't it? Telling us that we've got to release this past and leave the past disappointments behind. The past. People go, oh, this is what's going to happen. It's already happened. When you look at this card, you are there. You've lived through it. Now it's like, how do I feel about moving forwards? What do I do next? And so you need to find yourself a new footing. And as we can see, that this 10 of Swords is showing this man pierced by all the 10 swords, indicating that something's concluded, something that was cherished, and misfortune has took control. And so there is an awful lot where perhaps our figure did not foresee such circumstances. We know this. And we can see that he feels completely at the mercy of this situation. And it feels as if the swords have punctured the length of his spine, and he feels paralyzed by the whole thing. But I am going to say it's time for me to put some keywords on, and then we'll carry on. All right, so back in a moment. I'm sweltering, sorry folks. Oh dear. So, this card represents a situation that's happened. It's raw, it's crushing, it's at its worst, isn't it? We don't expect it, do we? And even if we do, we do not see what feels like our figure in the cards. He didn't see somebody sneaking up and attacking from behind. And so it shows that the symbology of the cards, as in that light brown tunic that's covering his heart, and in this particular version we've got yellow. The brown is for being grounded, and the yellow is for our solar plexus to find joy again. And of course we don't like it. you know. But the practicality of the colour brown is about the fact that we have to be grounded in life for things to happen, which is the good, bad, the ugly, and that's where it lies. That red robe represents his drive, his passion, his energy, but it's been removed and torn from him in the attack, and so it's lying over the lower body. And so he'll be aware that he's lost his ambitions and his current lack of ability to maneuver or to find solutions. They're far too complex for him in the place he's in right now mentally, because the swords, I beg your pardon, are skewering him in the body, and the robe is leaving the dreams behind. The dreams are in tatters right now, but they're placed over his legs, i.e. the robes over his legs, and so it shows a wish to leave this fateful place, and yet he feels he can't because he hasn't got the energy. Mental exhaustion, that's what this card is. And that robe is also, because it's on the lower half of the body, feels like a loss of status, identity, you know, for things that we loved. And so there is so much going on with this particular card that when it comes up, people feel incredibly overwhelmed and really upset by the whole situation. And that sunrise in the mountains, we've got to focus on, you know, it's a new dawn, it's a new day. And in the light of the day, we can actually look at things and go, we ignored all the warning signs. And we've got to look at the fact that the water is calm, which means emotionally we are calm now. Because, you know, like the Nine of Swords, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? It's so awful. We're in a place of anxiety, dreading it. Now it's happened. Now it's actually happened. And so there's nothing to fight now. But he's got no emotional energy, is what this is saying. So this is mental burnout, this is betrayal, this is humiliation. It feels like he's been stabbed in the back. And, you know, the number 10, we said, is about purpose and bringing together energies to create a whole. And so everything about this is telling us that something valuable has been taken away. And so remember, it represents a situation that has happened. And even though we didn't expect it, we probably saw a lot of the warning signs along the way. I hope now, as we've kind of gone along in tarot and looked at the cards, you can kind of see from Ace to 10 in the suit of swords that yes, everything has a beginning, a middle, and an end. But in tarot, if you have a tarot reading and you see the Ace of Swords, it doesn't mean you're then going into the Two of Swords unless you don't pay attention. And having a reading, we can see the background effects with the minor arcana cards to know what stage we're at. And if we don't act on, shall we say, the indecision of the Two of Swords, yeah, we are going to go into the heartbreak of the 3. Then we're going to have to recoup from it in the 4. Then we're going to go into battle with the 5, because we're not listening. We're ignoring all the warning signs. So if it's not a prediction, is it, when you have a reading? It's very much part of you are having forewarned, forearmed. It's what you do about it, or what you choose to act on, pay attention to. It's like a map. You know, you read the map and you went, oh, I just do my own thing. Fine. Then there's probably consequences for that. When you have a reading, it's a bit like saying, well, the map told me that if I do that, I'm going to go down that path, which I really don't want to, or that's exactly where I want to go to, i.e. not the swords, but particularly, but the other suits, you know, the happier suits, shall we say. Yes, I want to manifest things like the Pentacles. Yes, I want the action. Like, you know, the Six of Wands is a victory of success, and I want that in my career, or I want that in, you know, my status for myself, or my personal happiness. Whatever it is, we can look at the signposts. So don't think it's a succession of this happens, then that happens, then that happens. It's all of this can happen to you, but in no particular order. But it's likely that if you don't pay attention, you can end up at the Ten of Swords. And I keep saying to you, he's totally going, oh gosh, you know, I'm not deluded now. You know, I'm really not. And so that sword that's going through his ear is representing that he's finally hearing those things that he should have heard before. The one that's at the base of his neck, you know, it's like, well, it prevented him from moving his head. So it's all symbolic of you weren't doing anything, you weren't thinking on your feet, you weren't acting. But he is forced now to watch the dawn of a new day and everything he was building to actually say, I can't do that anymore. Look at me, I'm trapped. There's nothing I can do. I can only start from scratch. And that is exactly what he needs to do, because he's now in mental exhaustion and physical and emotional and a spiritual level where you're totally forced to reevaluate. Have to do it, you know? He's honestly in a place where he's got a new chance to live and to look and say, well, there's mountains there that I will still have to climb, don't we all? But there's calm waters there. And so that represents that the emotional side of things are calm and peaceful now, the calm after the storm. Some key words again about this card are painful endings, deep wounds, betrayal, loss, crisis. It's also recovery, isn't it? Regeneration and resisting an inevitable end. And so, you know, that calm sea in the background will bring solace again, suggesting that at times, even in our darkest hour, that we can have a sense of peace and calm, and that we can find that. And so, yes, the Ten of Swords is about painful yet inevitable endings. And sometimes that can be things, for example, a relationship might come to an abrupt end, a job might be cut, a contract might be broken. And it feels as if it's come out of the blue and rocked your world. And you never expected it. But there were warning signs. Like I'm saying, that journey of the swords, somewhere along there, you would have got warning. And now it's happened, it's cutting us to the core and leaving us feeling as if our world's totally crumbled. So we're grieving and the pain of this shocking loss. I'm wondering if we'll ever be able to trust or love or find work again. When the Ten of Swords comes in a tarot reading, you feel like a victim at the expense of other people's betrayal or deceit. That's how it feels. You feel I've been stabbed in the back and you're reeling from someone else's actions. You know, we may find that some colleague has been unkind, or a family member feels like they've betrayed us, or somebody's cheated us from something. And that pain runs deep. But there's nothing physical in it. We feel it and we overthink it. And it runs very deep because what's been done is hurtful. And we know that deep down that this is the end as we know it, and that we've got to grieve the loss of that, and that we do feel like a victim and we're not very proud of feeling like that, and we might want pity, and we might want others to save us from our despair. But we can't change the actions of anything other than ourselves. But what we can do is be accountable in how we respond. So even if we've been harmed or betrayed, we need to be able to pick ourselves up and move forwards rather than fall in a heap. We don't want that pity. And in that way, the Ten of Swords is about letting go and accepting the current circumstances. We mustn't resist the change because change is inevitable. But we have to allow it to happen, even though it causes us initial pain and hurt. And we recognize that that change is needed in order for us to renew, and rather than keep fighting it, we just need to allow it to occur. So the good news is that the Ten of Swords, it's the final ordeal. No more pain. This is my point. It's already happened. You don't have to face anything more. It just gets better from here. It's just how you are processing that mentally. So even in our darkest hour, we have to allow ourselves to experience that full impact of what's happened in the past before we can actually start over. Is it going to be easy? No. But it won't last forever. So you've got to pick yourself up again, haven't you? And reflect upon what happened and why. You can only learn from that, chalk it down to experience. And once you do this, the hurt and the pain start to fade, and we start to see something else that's evolving. In allowing it, we might receive the fullest potential. So that pain and that heartache have not gone without a purpose. And so it's using that positive power, that what we learn from our pain, to draw that wisdom from that defeat. If this was a career reading, a Ten of Swords can mean a sudden ending, without warning, in your opinion, something coming to an end, or a project that you're working on. And it can be really upsetting and more likely to be a shock. So it's the loss of a job, maybe the restructuring, redundancy, and it feels awful because, you know, you've had a long period of loyalty and service to the company, and so you might be upset. And so this comes in some form of a blessing, even though you can't see it yet. It is a blessing in disguise because it's opening new doors and new opportunities to you. Now, sometimes Ten of Swords can suggest investments or financial things that's toppled down, you know, and you might have invested and found that you're not getting back what you owed, or things have dropped in your shares, or something sudden or drastic. Or you might feel that people have cheated you out of the money that they owe you, whether you lent it or whether you assumed they could pay later, but they've not lived up to that part of the bargain. We've all been there. What is the personality type of the Ten of Swords? Well, actually, bear with me for a second. I'm going to have a sip of water. Okay, so personality that accompanies Ten of Swords character is somebody that's dramatic and fatalistic. They live in a world of loss and pain and victim and hardship. You'll never hear what's going right in their life, but you'll always hear about what's gone wrong. And each time They've built it up to be even worse than before. Sometimes Ten of Swords personalities need kindness, compassion, understanding, because they are constantly in this low vibrational state. And however down they are, by being around people that are in a higher vibrational state, it can actually find themselves making some sweeping changes by being around that kind of positive vibe. If this comes up in relationships and love, it kind of feels here, if you're unattached, that you've probably suffered a recent loss or experienced a very tough breakup, and the wounds are deep and you're still experiencing that pain. Perhaps you suffered a lot from that event. And so it's time for you to just focus on healing and using your energy to make sure that that healing makes you allow that thought process to heal before you start to search for another new love. It's probably essential, if you are in a relationship, that you will get to a point of completion, and not necessarily that there is a breakup when in a relationship, but there might be some closure to a difficult situation, shall we say. And so trying to struggle to understand what's next for you two as a couple, instead of thinking, oh my gosh, here we are, it's unlikely that it's a breakup just with this, but you find yourself wondering, I'm not doing that again. I don't mind being with you, but I'm not doing that. I'm done on that. We've got to do something else here. So it's a finality. And so you've got to reconcile yourself to the fact that you again are focused on healing, and you're about to embark or embrace those changes that will bring about new positive events in the long run. Remember that we're in no position right now. Think of it as mental exhaustion, burnout. Yeah? Just burnout. Absolutely exhausted from the whole thing. Deary, deary me, is what I hear people say. If this comes up in a spiritual position within a reading, or someone's asking about that, your spiritual enlightenment will come from, being able to complete and look at where you go next. So if you've been looking at oracle cards, you might be moving on to the completion of those and going for runes or crystals or tarot cards, or developing psychic skills. So this card it feels very, very harsh, but it is the ultimate teacher, and it shows that, we've had to learn from our failures and our mistakes to continue evolving, character building, evolving as being a human being. You need to know with this card that the worst is over. And so although your hopes and dreams have been dashed, now's not the time, but new ones will arise. You just need to know they will. And, if this comes up as someone's asking about well-being, well, it's completely mental exhaustion. And so it's about being able to recoup after perhaps very difficult, challenging times, where somebody just allows themselves to get over what's happened and give themselves time. So it's very important we've got to trust that everything happens for a reason. And although it's challenging for us to understand, we've all been through it, maybe going through it right now, but it's leading to our personal growth and regeneration, but in the long term. And I know that is no consolation at the time, but we must know that everything, what's good, it changes. Change is inevitable. What's bad also changes. And this has already happened. So there's nowhere to go apart from to dwell on it, to heal from it, and allow itself to really just recoup, regenerate, and it can feel that this situation has affected us badly, and so we feel like carrying those wounds. And although it's happened, we can't understand why we can't get over it. And it might be challenging for us to actually say, why can't I let this go? Why am I still maudling over this? And so we just need, as long as we need, to reevaluate those circumstances and allow our thoughts to roll, which is the best point of healing, and just let go of the weeds and things that are of no value in our life. You know, don't dwell on the painful past. Just know that things will reshape. Maybe not now, but you can create a new sense of yourself so that you can look ahead and be free. But when those events come along to reshape your life, and Ten of Swords can just appear when that pain and that sadness has come to a complete end. You know, sometimes this comes up when we're releasing memories from the past and we're actually allowing ourselves that opportunity to move forwards at last. And we go, why am I doing this again? It's just essential, you know, and those endings have to have a chance to be acknowledged and reevaluated in your life. It's a priority for yourself. Okay? So, any questions, anybody? Yeah? Very difficult card. Very difficult card. Okay, I'm going to very quickly show you, if you do continue studying tarot and you want to see what professional reading can look like, it depends on who you follow, doesn't it? Well, in my case, I have been using this method, and this is why it stood me really well in the test of time over the last 30 years. Yes, I've looked at everything and anything before I stumbled on this, and then it was like, I'm always curious to see what's happening, but I'd never change it. I hope you understand what I'm saying. I don't go, oh no, that's not for me. I go, interesting. Thank you very much. I'll stick with what I'm doing because this answers everything. I just like what you showed me, you know. I'm interested in a way that's lovely, you know, that. So this is what my spread looks like. And so you saw that spread, and yes, it's on my website up there with tarot courses, Tarot with Anne-Marie. Part 1, of course, is the intermediate. There you go. And that's not as many cards as you just saw. You only get up to 44 cards if you do part 2, which is my signature method. So I hope that helped. If you are interested in developing as a reader, that's the way to go. Just to mention, Thursday is, we have a podcast for the Learn Tarot series. There it is. And that's what it looks like, the podcast of all the lessons that I have done from starting off with the Fool with you on my YouTube channel there, Tarot with Anne-Marie. So we have the Thursday podcast for the one card, and we've got the Tuesday to show you how to use pairs. All right. Okay, so difficult card, yeah? One, then we go, oh my gosh, that's not going to happen to me, is it? It's happened. Just remember it's happened. It's symbolic, and it's talking about how you can get trussed up in your own thinking, how you can be affected mentally by other people's words, and how it's impacted on your thinking. Remember your suit. It's communication. So there is nothing, although we see physically here, how is somebody going to actually show symbolically, how hard-hitting it can be. It can be that awful. It really can. Almost depressed, isn't it? But it is exhaustion and completion. Okay, thanks very much to Av coming on and saying hi. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Oh, that's so nice. Welcome along. So I hope that helped. It's a card that no matter what, it feels, as if you feel it. Well, I do. That's the whole part. Every card I ever touch, I always feel the energy of it. It affects me. And I had a lot to say about that one. I hope that helped you, and I hope that you are not thinking that it's a prediction of the future, because it's not. It's already happened when that comes up. So until next time, everybody, do go and watch the podcast as I've shown you, and you can pick any one that we've done from the Fool up to here. So 22 major arcana cards, and now we've got 10 swords. So what's next? I'll be doing the Cup family. So I'll see you next week on Thursday for the Ace of Cups, and on Tuesday I'll be showing you how to read the 10 of Swords with a major arcana, and what it can mean when we put two cards together, how that meaning of the 10 of Swords can give you the answers when you're exploring your reading by combining your cards and going, that's what it means. This person's mentally exhausted. They've done this from their work, So you're very, very welcome. I so love that. Thank you, Anne. Thank you very, very much. Bye, Passionate Saji. Thanks, Av and Carla. I'm sweltering, so sorry about the fact that I'm melting. But until next time, everybody, thank you very much, and I'll see you soon. I'll play you out. Bye for now.